Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Royal Instinct. Today we're going to be watching a couple of videos by Jimmy the Giant on the terrifying world of Looksmaxxing, and we're going to be diving into Brooklyn Beckham and his family feud. Brooklyn Beckham is somebody who is considered to have it all. Born to wealthy parents, he is a nepo baby. Okay, his both parents are considered very good looking, and genetically he is considered also to be very good looking. Okay, however, just because you have good genes, just because you are good looking, doesn't mean that you will be successful in life. It doesn't mean that you will have things easy for you. Okay, and we will be going in between both of them, seeing what the Looksmaxers are saying and where Brooklyn Beckham is going wrong. Because to many people, Brooklyn Beckham is the Giga Chad. He has been Looksmaxing and he is a successful Looksmaxer. But let's jump into this
Giga
video.
Chad Jimmy here, and today I'll teach you 5 tricks to fill that empty void in your soul. Looksmaxxing, you've probably heard of it if you've been on the internet lately. Bone smashing, mewing, leg lengthening surgery. These days, in 2024,
yeah, this has really gained mainstream appeal ever since a guy called Clavicular started doing the rounds on podcasting. I believe he was platformed by people like Fresh and Fit and Sneeko and Neon, another YouTube streamer, Twitch streamer. And ever since he's gained traction, people are just kind of fascinated to delve in to see what is going on there. Why are these young men smashing their bones? Why are they so obsessed by looks? What are they trying to gain? And it is their belief that they will gain a competitive advantage to be able to mog other men. What does mog mean? It comes from the good old pickup days, which means amog, which means alpha male of the group. And then if you are mogging someone, you are out alphaing somebody. Okay. And they're not even doing it to get girls. They're not even doing it to maximize their dating life. The reason why they are doing it is because they are just trying to be better looking than other guys. It's kind of like if you ever seen the film Zoolander, it really is that premise of like when they blue steel and they just look at you straight in the camera into the face, and then they're trying to be like better looking than you, right? What you realize is that the way men find women attractive, that is not the same way that women find us attractive. Of course, looks do matter, but not to the extent that most men will have you believe. So a lot of these things that these Looksmaxers are doing, like limb lengthening, where they basically break your shin and then try to extend it so you can gain 3-4 inches in height, is not what you need to do. What you need to do, and what this channel is about, is to maximize and build your kingdom. Okay, this channel's called Royal Instinct, and what we try to do here is we are trying to leave the current system, because the current system is fucked. It is a rigged game. Okay, you have to realize that if you want to be successful in today's society, it's not going to be via playing by the rules society has set. What you need to do is establish your own game, establish your own kingdom, and become the ruler of that said kingdom. Okay, and how we do that is by finding out what our life purpose is, why we are here on this earth. We try to maximize our zone of genius, to maximize our passions in order to find insight to further humanity, and bring about the next phase of evolution, right? The way we do that is by working hard in our zone of genius to the point where work doesn't feel like work anymore. It becomes like play. And then you are essentially just playing at life, trying to maximize your life and, go forward and be seen as a leader. Once you're seen as a leader, once you are in your life purpose, people will be naturally attracted to you. They would see you as a happy person and want some of that happiness for themselves. Okay, they'll ask you questions like, oh, how do you do it? Okay, like, how are you able to be so happy, content with life? How are you able to be so successful in life? And then when you explain to them what you're doing is, they'll look up to you. You'll be a subject matter expert in their eyes. You'll be an expert. And then because you're seen as a leader, because you are a leader, you'll be able to move forward and start establishing your kingdom. And once you have a kingdom, because you are the person who has set up that system, you'll be naturally be seen as a king.
Young lads are not out skateboarding and crushing punaan. Instead, they're staying indoors and making themselves really beautiful, pumping them.
Yeah, what social media's done, what the age of the internet has done, because people have so much access to information, people have realized, children and teenagers aren't really being children anymore. Okay, they're being hypersexualized by society. They are being told that, unless you have money, unless you have all these markers of success, that you are not good enough. And we don't subscribe to that. What we do is we sort out our self-doubts and failure and fears within your own head, because that is what's stopping you from accessing your zone of genius. And once you bring in all facets of your personality without any fears or self-doubts, then you are able to go forward with confidence and certainty. And once you have confidence and certainty, you will be looked at as a leader, as a king, and people will naturally flock to you.
Themselves with testosterone, flying out to Poland to get their legs lengthened, and like hitting their cheekbones with a hammer. Am I beautiful yet? And I really kind of want to figure out, why are they doing this? And for us to answer this question, we need to explore the evolution of male beauty standards, the evolution of masculinity, the effect all of this stuff is having on young men's mental health, and we need to explore the dark politics at the root of all of this. So today, we will explore.
It's funny that he mentions politics, because a lot of people are seeing these Looksmaxxers, being consumed by the far right groups in politics. We don't subscribe to no politics on this channel. We create our own politics. We create our own leadership. But even like that clavicular guy, he's hanging around with Nick Fuentes, who is a known racist, who is a Nazi sympathizer. Sympathizer. I think he recently had that scandal where they're all doing Heil Hitler salutes in a nightclub. And you have to realize it's the reason for that is because it is a kind of like a counterculture to incel culture, whereas incels are involuntary celibate, and they kind of believe in what's called the black pill, that they are doomers, that they don't believe that there is a good future for them because the current system has failed them. So a lot of these people, these young men, are being like, if I can't have a dating life, then I'm going to make myself as attractive as possible in order to attract women. However, in the end, they just what they're really doing is just transmaxing for other men.
Looksmaxxing. So this video for me really starts back in summer, where I got an email from a company called Elite Hair who offered to sponsor me a hair transplant. I was kind of offended because I didn't need one. Look at this bad boy, come on. So what I did, I said I would agree to it if I'm allowed to say whatever I want and talk about the dark side of cosmetic surgery, which they agreed to, and if I can give the hair surgery to a friend that really fucking needs it. Amazingly, they agreed. And so here we must introduce my friend, Alex.
Just that I was suffering from like hair loss for a long time, and I actually made
this whole beautification of a man is kind of ludicrous when you look at the most richest men in the world, the most successful men in the world, and how they look. They don't look like runway models. It's very rare. I mean, people like Quentin Tarantino, for example, is a famous director. He is not lacking in in his dating life, because he was able to find his zone of genius and establish a kingdom as a king director. Okay, he's a king filmmaker, and that is what a man is for. A man is to find something in his life that he can devote his time to and be very, very competent in it, be a genius in it, and you will naturally find success. And when you have success come your way, money and women will be no matter.
My own TikTok video about it. I was trying to like say, if you have a haircut like this, it can help you look good, and everyone was like, no, it doesn't.
It's like he's really giving off like this, just a simple-minded guy. You know what I mean? Like he's like, you know, just your bang average person. So it's a good. I think it's a good case study that he gave this hair transplant to.
Now, my boy thought he was going to, you know, give some men inspiration if they're balding. Turned out the post backfired and he just got obliterated in the comments. Now, these comments that you're reading here, they were pretty mild compared to some of the comments that we will go on to see in the Looksmaxxing forums. So yeah, me and Alex, we headed out to Turkey. And as soon as you arrive, you see this conveyor belt of men, endless men, coming to Istanbul specifically just to get their hair done. And as soon as I saw the scale of this thing, there was one thought in my head. And that was that when I was growing up, when I was younger, it would have been unimaginable for a man to get a hair transplant back in the 2000s. And I'm not
Yeah, because the technology wasn't there, or even if it was, it wasn't cheap enough for you to be able to, you know, to do it at this large scale.
not talking about the technology. It would have been unimaginable for the simple reason that if you got a hair transplant, all of your male friends would call you gay. If you
It's not even that. It's just a sign of the times. You know, as technology advances, as science improves, people's lives will be able to get better. And then why not take advantage of those new improvements in science and technology? However, one of the reasons why this is so prevalent in today's society is because we're becoming more and more driven by, especially by social media and Instagram, about how we look, how we're perceived, how we look in pictures.
grew up in the 90s or the 2000s, you'll remember this period of time where everyone would use the word gay as an insult.
Ian, wake up, fat. Judge rolls in 20, so if you want to ride to work, you better get your poop in a group.
Okay, I'll be right down.
No, now, Clay Aiken.
All right.
No, now, homo.
Just give me a minute.
No, now, sissy.
This is a very important phenomena for us in understanding the current.
The reason why men shit on each other by calling each other gay is because they're trying to say that, that you are less than a man, right? They're trying to probe your masculinity. However, Looksmaxxing spins it on its head, because like even Looksmaxxers, they put on makeup, they do eyeliner, they do lip liner to make their features more predominant.
Obsession with Looksmaxxing. So yeah, young boys growing up in the 90s and the 2000s were growing up in a very weird time because there were some major cultural shifts that were happening. Firstly, there was this big moral panic back in the 80s around gay people due to the AIDS epidemic. I mean, look, Ricky Gervais used to dress like this. It was completely common in the 80s for men to dress like this. And so, yeah, the night...
The rest of the sofa can just relax, because guess who's here? Guess who's here? I'll tell you who's here. Sexiest man alive, ladies and gentlemen. It's official.
All right, so David fucking Beckham, he rocks up wearing a...
So, yeah, David Beckham was seen as a sex symbol, and we'll be diving later into his family feud with his own son.
Wrong. The boy's skin glowing, moistured to perfection, groomed stubble, jewellery, blonde highlights in his hair.
I was asked to shave it off when I first did it. I was sat in the changing room and I had a hat on at the time because Sir Alex Ferguson hadn't seen it. So obviously that was interesting when I took my hat off, and we had an hour before the kickoff and he said, go and shave it off.
Really? Like, the boy was pushing boundaries, right? And the thing is, ladies fucking loved him.
Let me just show you this picture. Do you feel shy here?
He was literally married to Posh Spice, a major female celebrity. And for young boys, right, imagine what this was doing to their head.
So they were seen as a power couple. They were seen as a very good-looking couple, and people aspired to be like them.
They're being told that they're only allowed to dress like a Tony Hawk's NPC, but increasingly male celebrities were looking more and more feminine. I mean, if you contrast David Beckham, Orlando Bloom, Jared Leto against fucking Sylvester Stallone, Vin Diesel, Arnold Schwarzenegger, clearly a contradiction was emerging. Next thing you know, it's 2010s, and if you're not wearing skinny jeans, squeezing your muscles into a tight Fred Perry, or you weren't getting your...
You know what I mean? Like, women complain about the beauty standards that they have to uphold to. However, those same standards are slowly being placed on men, especially the younger generation. You know, Gen Z has no clue what the, you know, a pre-internet world was like before filters and Instagram, and how to just be a normal kid growing up, because they kind of missed out on all that, and all they see now is like Andrew Tate and Iman Gadzhi telling them how to become rich. People are becoming more more money orientated, and they are more and more, because everything is filtered through a camera, they are more concerned with how you appear than actually being a man.
Weekly skin fade or your nice tight top knot. All of a sudden, now you are the weird one. Like, I think that's interesting, right? How quickly, you know, traditional masculine roles change in such.
And, you know, that is the current system that we find ourselves in. And if you want to not play part of that game, which is what I don't want to do, that, you know, I see the current system, I see the current society that we live in, and I'm just like, I just don't want to take part in it anymore. I've had enough. The elites, they are driving prices up via inflation, by the bad policy choices that they are making, and the world is becoming more and more difficult to live in. So how do you escape all that? This is what we do at Raw Instinct. I am sending out a bat signal. I am looking for like-minded people. People understand what I'm doing. People understand what I'm about. And together we will establish kingdoms. We will establish our new lands. We will have our own private islands. And people will flock to it because they can see that we are benevolent kings, philosopher kings, and that they want to be part of the society that we build. Okay, we have our own rules that we play by. We don't play by society's rules.
A period of time, and maybe it's good that men were allowed to explore this stuff, but there was definitely one group of people that this was particularly good for: the beauty industry.
Men are getting prettier. The era of highlight.
Okay, let's make it more forward. We want to get to the Looksmaxxing bit.
Experience in their teens, and a lot of this can.
Okay, here you go. Hang on.
There were other things that were happening in the background that was creating a deeper insecurity in young men. According to a 2024 UK report, fewer and fewer young people are having sex or having relationships compared to past decades.
Because the dating market is fucked.
Almost half of American Gen Z men report having zero romantic experience in their teens. And a lot of this...
Yeah, isolation is up on the rise. People are more and more isolated. People have less friends now than ever before. And, you know, when you are a person, you know, who is suffering, who is isolated, who is lonely, you kind of look around to try and find some answers, okay? And then you have the people telling you, oh, if you were more better looking, you would, you know, have the halo effect put on you, and then you'll be able to gain more opportunities. Now, because this clavicular guy is going viral, you know, it justifies his means, right? Because he completed Looksmaxxing, went as far as possible, and now he's getting fame, money, and status because of it. So he completed his goal, but he didn't complete his goal because of the Looksmaxxing. He completed it because of the fame and status that he achieved.
This can really directly be tied to the post-2010s decrease in what is called third places.
The other thing is post-2010, you know, I think 2010 was the year Instagram came, and Facebook really took off. It was also the release of the iPhone just a couple of years before that. You have all these new technological advancements at the same time, and you see a decrease in third spaces, a decrease in real friends, people going out more and spending more and more time online.
Third places being just, you know, communal places outside of your home and your work. Places that you can just hang out, socialize. They have been shutting down at an alarming rate, and you can see it in the data. And like, it's kind of obvious, right? If it costs you like £100 to leave your house to...
So you kind of see that all these different things, right? So it costs £100 or $100 to leave your house, okay, because everything's getting more and more expensive, right? A reduction in third places, right? Places to actually socialize. You have less friends, okay? You have less people to hang out with, and then that's why third places are shutting down, because they don't have the same demand for them, right? And these places can't operate anymore, so they end up shutting down. So then it's just a negative spiral downwards, which causes the place where we find ourselves in now.
Get some food, some beer, and do some activity. Well, if you have a generation of young people that are making less and less money as prices are going up to do activities, doom scrolling TikTok Looksmaxxing videos and swiping on Tinder, well, that's for free. Increasingly, the online world becomes the new third place.
Yeah, he is right. That is the end goal of the elites. They want you plugged into the matrix. They want you plugged into the metaverse, okay? They want you in your bedroom, plugged in online. And the reason for that is because you become easier to control. They can curate the algorithms to brainwash you into becoming more of a consumerist, because Looksmaxxing is a benefit to the beauty industry, as the guy already said, right? So cosmetic surgeries, all these things, they're going up. So companies are benefiting off of your insecurity.
And there's a lot to blame about the dating apps, but really the dating apps are a solution to the material problem of a shrinking social life, a lack of free time, and a lack of disposable income. But the thing is about the apps is basically everyone fucking hates them. Most dating app users report feeling emotionally exhausted from them. And that's because when romance becomes algorithmic and placed on a platform, that platform becomes a hyper competitive marketplace.
Yeah, so they have commoditized love, they have commoditized romance. There is no more real magic in the world, there's no more real dating in the world, and people are becoming more and more frustrated, okay? The people who are winning are the elites, because they have all the wealth, they have all the resources, and I want you to be in that position so you can benefit as much as the elites. But let's jump into Brooklyn Beckham.
Victoria and David Beckham came out and posted a testimonial on his story all about the reason for his estrangement with his parents and the sort of rivalry between his mom and his wife. And listen, we do not know these people. We do not know what happened with them. We weren't there. And we're only hearing one side of the story now. I'm going to give the Beckhams the benefit of the doubt and assume that there are certain things from their perspective that we also aren't aware of. However, Brooklyn Beckham's story contained so many familiar themes that I commonly see in family estrangement that I'd like to use what he said just as a jumping off point to talk about those. Because putting aside the Beckhams and the Peltzes, is that how you pronounce the name? Even if all of what he said is a lie, this is a story that we see so commonly with so many people.
Okay, let's jump ahead.
The press leaving me with no choice but to life I was born into. Recently, I've also seen with my own eyes the lengths that they'll go through to place countless lies in the media, mostly at the expense of innocent people, to preserve their own facade. But I believe the truth always comes out. My parents...
when you get to the point where you're airing your dirty laundry via social media, it's like, it's already, the relationship's already fucked by then, okay? It is not repairable. They'll try, obviously, because that is their son. But you can never ever trust a person like that again, okay? Even if it's your own blood.
I've been trying endlessly to ruin my relationship since before the wedding, and it hasn't stopped. My mom canceled making Nicola's dress in the 11th hour despite how excited she was to wear her design, forcing her to urgently find a new dress. Weeks before a big day, my parents repeatedly pressured and attempted to bribe me into signing away the rights to my name, which would have affected me, my wife, and our future children. They were adamant on me signing before my wedding date because then the terms of the deal would be initiated. My holdout affected the payday, and they have never treated me the same since. since. During the wedding planning, my mom went so far as to call me evil because Nicola and I chose to include my nanny Sandra and Nicola's nanny at our table because they both didn't have their husbands. Both of our parents had their own tables equally adjacent to ours. The night before our wedding, members of my family told me that Nicola was not blood and not family. Since the moment I started standing up for myself with my family, I've received endless attacks from my parents, both privately and publicly, that were sent to the press on their orders. Even my brothers were sent to attack me on social media before they ultimately blocked me.
I mean, when you listen to these problems, these are people who have all the money in the world. They have all the fame and status in the world, and they sound like just like teenagers squabbling over, oh, you're not my friend anymore because you went and sat on that table. It's just like, it is absolutely ridiculous.
Out of nowhere this last summer. My mom hijacked my first dance with my wife, which had been planned weeks in advance, to a romantic love song. In front of our 500 wedding guests, Mark Anthony called me to the stage, where in the schedule was planned to be my romantic dance with my wife, but instead my mom was waiting to dance with me instead. She danced very inappropriately on me in front of everyone. I've never felt more uncomfortable or humiliated in my entire life.
I mean, that's just fucking weird, isn't it? Like, you have your own mum trying to grind on you at your wedding during your first dance. It's just like, these people are deviants. That type of behavior is inexcusable.
We wanted to renew our vows so we could create new memories of our wedding day that bring us joy and happiness, not anxiety and embarrassment. My wife has been consistently disrespected by my family, no matter how hard we've tried to come together as
This is a long fucking essay.
one. My mom has repeatedly invited women from my past into our lives in ways that were clearly intended to make both of us uncomfortable.
I think what's happening is, the mother is kind of feeling threatened by the son leaving the nest, leaving the house, and she's trying to regain control by trying to manipulate his life.
Despite this, we still traveled to London for my dad's birthday and were rejected for a week as we waited in our hotel room, trying to plan quality. My family values public promotion and endorsements above all else. Brand Beckham comes first.
It is all about money, okay? We are living in a time where, because people are returning back to their basic nature, and it is becoming all about survival. And in today's society, survival means money, right? The people who have the most money feel the safest, or so they think. So they think money is the solution to all your problems, and which is why people put the emphasis on money above all else, even if it comes at the expense of your own family, your own sanity, and your own dignity.
Family love is decided by how much you post on social media or how quickly you drop everything to show up and pose for a family photo op, even if it's at the expense of our professional obligations. We've gone out of our way for years to show up and support at every fashion show, every party, and every press activity to show our perfect family. But the one time my wife asked for my mom's support to save displaced dogs during the LA fires, my mom refused. The narrative that my wife controls me is...
I mean, people already in the UK, they don't respect Victoria Beckham as much as David Beckham. Okay, they kind of see her as like someone who just rode the coattails of her husband, although she was much more famous when they started dating, because she was part of the Spice Girls. Yeah, I mean, like displaced dogs at a dog pound or orphanage or whatever, and she doesn't turn up. That just makes you look really, really bad.
It's completely backwards. I have been controlled by my parents for most of my life. I grew up with overwhelming anxiety. For the first time in my life since stepping away from the family, that anxiety has disappeared. I wake up every morning grateful for the life I chose and have found peace and relief. My wife and I do not want a life shaped by image, press, or manipulation. All we want is peace, privacy, and happiness for us and our future family. So there were so many themes in what he said that were familiar to me that I hear a lot of people talking about when they are discussing their own family estrangement. So this isn't really even a...
Yeah, I mean, I think if you boil it down to a lot of it is about control. A lot of it is about, trying to remind the son, oh, I'm in charge, okay? Like, you don't stray too far, I'll pull you back. It's like the invisible hand maneuvering and to try and point your life into a direction that you want to go down to.
about the Beckhams. This is about like estrangement as a whole. If you have ever gone through what he's gone through, I think you probably notice that what he's talking about sounds very textbook. Let's start by talking about the sort of in-group, out-group tribalism that he's describing. This idea of like, Nicola is not blood and she's not one of us.
Well, if you think about it, Victoria and David aren't blood, right? They're a couple and who started a family. So, they're trying to make some part of the out group. She doesn't realize her own situation in that scenario. However, the reason people do that is because, if you remember the scene in Planet of the Apes, it's like, ape, weak alone but strong together, right? They try to manipulate you to tell you that you are weak by yourself and that you will be strong as part of the pack, as part of the family, as part of a gang or a tribe. And that is what we're doing here. We establish our own kingdoms where we are in control, where we are the leaders, and the people that are part of our kingdoms, living in our kingdoms, they make you stronger, right? They make us stronger. And that is the right thing to do if you want to establish a tribe.
People with certain personality structures, when they meet somebody new, they're trying to assess, are you with me or are you against me? And it even starts as young as babies. When a child is born, sometimes, for instance, a narcissistic parent will be trying to gauge, do I identify with you or do I not? So sometimes they'll see maybe like their own facial features on their child. And because of that, they will think this child is not, their own person, a human being with their own set of traits and characteristics and agency and all that. This child is an extension of me. That's what happens when a narcissistic parent successfully identifies with their baby. If they can't successfully identify with that child will often go on to be a scapegoat, for instance.
Yeah, you need to, if you are being manipulated like that, if you find yourself in a situation like that, whether it's your family, whether it's a girlfriend, whether it's your boss, whether it is friends, okay, you need to cut ties with those people and you need to gain control of your situation. Otherwise, you'll never be truly free. And if you can't find freedom, you'll never be happy.
When the child is just so different from them that it's like, I don't see you as an extension of me. I have even seen people with this personality structure trying to alienate a literal child, like we're talking like a 2-year-old, from family events because they were not blood, because they were not directly related to them, because they were related to somebody else in their family. That's how deep this goes. And that's how obvious it is that when people have this very intense in-group, out-group tribalism, it's really not personal, right? If they're willing to project their worst qualities onto a literal baby, it's not usually anything that the other person has done. And this is the same concept that, when taken to an extreme, was why royalty were so inbred, because it was like, we need to keep it.
Even though we are building our kingdoms, even though we are trying to become royalty, and this channel is called Royal Instinct, I do not condone I don't condone inbreeding or incest. Stay away from your cousins, stay away from all family members when you're trying to have sex and procreate. It's really funny, but yeah, most of society, royals were inbred before. However, what we want to create genetically strong offspring, and I encourage you to have a harem of women from all over the globe. Whatever tickles your fancy, whatever is your favorite flavor, go for it, because you are a king and you shall live like one and establish a harem.
In the family, we need to keep it in the blood. Everyone who isn't us cannot be trusted, is not as good. We are the best in the world. And when you see the way that some of those people turned out, you see like a visual depiction of how monstrous this way of thinking truly can become. But on a smaller scale, in like everyday families today, this in-group, out-group tribalism leads to excluding the person who is not blood, treating them like their spouse's extended family, not someone who is now their spouse's core family. It might be literally not wanting that person to take on the family name. Another theme that he makes me think of is this projection of controlling traits.
Yeah, this is what I said earlier. Like, it is manipulation. It is a control mechanism trying to put in place so he doesn't grow as a person, so he's not able to make decisions for himself, so he is always looking towards inside the group, towards his mother, his father, for guidance. Okay, you know, that is not the type of leader I want you to be. What you need to do is you need to become the type of leader where you set an example and people follow your example, okay, out of their own free will. I don't want you to micromanage people. I don't want you to be so involved as you're to the point that it is manipulative. You need to do what's best for yourself, and everything else trickles down from you.
It is so often in family estrangement that the person who previously held all the power and sort of weaponized it against their children blames a third party for the reason why their child will no longer talk to them, rather than taking responsibility for their contribution to the estrangement. So often they'll blame the therapist, often they'll blame the spouse. It's kind of like this infantilization of their child. It's like, my child can't think for themselves, they're just a puppet, they have no agency. Why would they think that? They might think that if up until that point they were treating their child that way, they were the one telling them what to do and what not to do and having all the power over them, and now the child is no longer letting them do that. And
yeah, and you can see just how it causes a lack of freedom in a person's life. And, you know, like I said earlier, if you find yourself in a situation like that, you need to escape it. You need to become the person who is in charge of your own life. You need to take control so that you can move forward and live the life that you want. Okay, you need to be able to set boundaries for yourself. If people are treating you in a way that you do not like, then yeah, it's time to get out of that situation. And that is why we are currently leaving the current establishment and founding our own.
instead of perceiving it as like my child is developing a healthy sense of self and agency, they perceive it as, oh, somebody else stole my puppet from me. I also find that this sort of narrative often capitalizes off of misogynistic stereotypes. The stereotype of the manipulative, controlling, cunning woman who is stealing a man from his family. It's a little bit cliche, isn't it?
I like how she called it misogynistic stereotype, when it appears that it is the mother really kind of pushing this narrative, right? So is it not femininity, toxic femininity, toxic feminism trait? What's the opposite of misogyny, right? Yeah, she decides to paint it as misogynistic. However, it is the mother who is doing that. But let's jump back into the Looksmaxxing video.
Modern marketplace, there would of course be a new form of currency: sexual capital.
I knew I wasn't a bad looking guy, but I hadn't been on a date in 1,042 days. I sought to find the blueprint for dating apps. I got so many matches that I started scheduling dates every single day and ended up going on 30 dates in 30 days.
Now look, online dating is very different to dating in real life. Real world feedback from, you know, trying to talk to...
What you have to realize is the real world and the online world have now merged together, and there is no differentiation anymore, okay? Because people are spending so much time online and the images they see, the news stories they see, the videos that they see, are bleeding into reality. Okay, your brain can't differentiate from what they see on the screen from what they see in real life, and the interpretations it makes at a subconscious level. You know, there is no difference to it. Okay, so those two realities are merging into one, and people are being left confused and more isolated.
Someone you like, it works out sometimes, it doesn't sometimes. That feedback is quite literally the thing that shapes one's personality and one's confidence. You know, perhaps you're an average looking guy and you go to a house party and you're a bit nervous, you're a bit awkward, and then you have a couple of beers, you relax, you crack a fucking banger of a joke, you make some cute girl laugh, and you score a little kiss on the cheek. You might have been a nervous wreck when you entered that house party, but now you're walking home like fucking Billy Big Bollocks. But when that real life experience disappears, but you still live in a society that the magazines, the films, the television endlessly glorify celebrity men.
Exactly. So that those two worlds are merging into one. You can be at your house party, but then people pull up their phones and be like, oh, look how what this girl looks like, or look, you know what I mean? So you could be in a room full of 20 girls and they're all cute, right? They all live in your local town. You go to school with them, you go to college with them, right? You work together, whatever. But then you're kind of like gauging who's the most attractive, who tickles your fancy, and then someone puts up a phone and shows you a picture of like some Instagram girl who is, you know, a professional model in essence at that stage, and you know, she blows out that water. So then you're comparing an Instagram girl to a real life girl, and your brain's like, you know, not feeling it anymore. Okay, and then, you know, when you have that distortion in your perception and in reality, then society ceases to function properly.
And which beautiful woman they're with in a culture that is deeply obsessed with your status, with wealth, with power. Young men continuously get fed a message that unless you are attractive to beautiful women, then you're a loser, a virgin. And what's more, on top of that, an argument.
The thing is, that might not be 100% correct, but slowly and slowly we are moving towards that age where it is becoming more and more true, because as people believe it to be true, it ends up becoming true. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I'm going to move that video forward a bit. I think he is waffling on a little bit too much.
Is on Tinder, where your entire personality is compressed into a few images, measured by an algorithm, and ranked amongst millions of other men. In that environment, a new kind of pseudo-scientific religious cult built around facial structures, height, jawlines, and evolutionary biology is formed. And the umbrella term for this world is, of course, the manosphere.
Lately, I've been hitting the old doom swipies over here, and my mangorithm has introduced me to all sorts of new alpha friends.
So you have a problem in society where men aren't able to date anymore because the dating market is skewed thanks to technology and dating apps. And then men forge communities online to try and solve that problem. Before, it used to be the pickup community. That used to be the original manosphere, where people will come together and discuss how to approach women, how to get laid, and how to find girlfriends and get dates. That has slowly then moved into, from the pickup community into the red pill community. And then, you know, there was another movement called men going their own way, where they weren't even taking part of modern society because they believed it to be too driven by feminism. And then there was a merge of all these things online where, you know, then you had gym culture bleed into it, because then you're just doing it to gain more attractiveness. And now the umbrella term for all of that is the manosphere.
Wide world of podcasters and social media influencers and roided out man cubes that comprise the media landscape that has been dubbed the manosphere.
The manosphere is a broad term that covers different philosophies, some of them much more extreme than others. But there is a increasingly popular theory in the manosphere, and that is this belief that women are naturally hypergamous, meaning that they are biologically hardwired to only want the top men. And they come up with like rules, right? They call it the 80-20.
He may be laughing at it, but there is also some truth to it. You know, human nature in general responds well to authority. And, you know, if you are the perceived alpha in an environment, you will be deemed more attractive. You can see it play out in, you know, singers, artists. Why are women attracted to them? Is because they have seen to be more status, to be more wealthier, and therefore they'll be naturally attracted to them. And that is the position that I want you to be in. I want you to become the natural alpha in your environment. I want you to become be seen as a king, and therefore you will have all these advantages to you naturally. But the way we do that is not by smashing in your bones. The way we do that is by amplifying your personality and becoming somebody that people want to be friends with, people want to be around with, and therefore you will live the best life possible.
20 rule. This is the idea that 80% of women only want the top 20% of men in looks, status, and money. And they believe that women are biologically incapable of loving average-looking men.
As a high-value woman, before you say to that man you can have a day off and you're allowed to be sad today, you will only even acknowledge he exists if he's ignored how he feels 99% of the time before that. Because if he was sad most of the time before that, he never would have got to a place where he could attract a woman like you.
So where the fuck did they get this idea from, right? Well, there was some data that came from dating apps where it showed roughly 80% of women selected only 20% of the men. And this...
So he's kind of taking the piss out of the 80-20 rule, and then there's data to back it up. So, you know, a lot of these guys, especially this, you know, Jimmy the Giant Geezer, he tries to be like a leftist, trying to be like, oh, like, you know, people just being crazy, people being paranoid. And then, you know, like 6 months later, a year later, those conspiracy theories end up becoming true.
This is one of those things where if you read that, it might sound scientific until you actually look at it. On apps like Tinder, right, men massively out.
But then you also have to look at what is the cause of you know, the dating market not working right now. Okay, he earlier said that Gen Z men are not having sex, that they're not having romantic relationships. So what is the cause then? Okay, if it's not hypergamous nature of women, then what is the cause?
Number women. According to a 2025 summary of app usage data, globally, around about 75% of Tinder users identify as being men, whilst 25% identify as female. And you know, if you were to like maybe ask a woman, why don't you use Tinder as much as men do? Well, they might tell you that there's some very creepy men on those platforms.
And the other reason is because women, you know, if you're using a dating app to meet people, there is a little bit of stigma around to it. But the thing is, women on Instagram are being flooded with so many DMs, so many requests to be taken out on dates that they don't even need to download Tinder at that stage. All right, like why even bother with another app when you getting all your dates and needs met via Instagram? So, you know, a lot of these studies don't look at the whole bigger picture. They kind of niche in on one little app, one little phenomena, but you need to consider the wider landscape and how women are actually dating in today's market.
Terry, 73. I'm old, ugly, and horny, and I love eating smooth young. My favorite is 69, although I also love Cowgirl because I get to maul those gorgeous melons. Also, I love Doggy.
So,
I mean, they pick out the worst one to make fun of it. So, you know, there's no more nuance. There's no more real objectivity. People are just like looking, all right, let's find the actual creepiest guy on that platform and make fun of it. Let's jump a little bit ahead.
Is a reason why. The red pill.
Right? When a nerd comes to me and goes, I'm a total nerd, I want to learn game. I'm like, bro, you need to learn more than game. Because you look like a bitch. My girlfriend would beat the fuck out of you.
The red pill shit really popped off around 2021, 2022 with the rise of Andrew Tate. And you had their sort of lackeys, Fresh and Fit, Sneeko. And their whole, you know, kind of general sales pitch was that you need to be an alpha man. An alpha man is someone...
Yeah, they tell you to be an alpha male, but then they don't actually tell you how to become one. Okay, they just tell you and then sell you some fake course in order to be one. The way that you become a real alpha is by becoming a leader. That is what the world needs. That is what the world is lacking. It needs better leaders and better leadership to solve the current crises, the current problems that we suffer in the world. That is why I encourage you to become a king. When you are a king, you'll be naturally seen as an alpha. You'll be naturally seen as the best option. And when you become a man who is in demand, when you become a person who has his own kingdom, who would you want to be friends with? Then you need to find friends who are of equal stature as you, other kings, other people that you can build alongside, build your kingdom, conquer territory, you know. Those are the types of people that you want to be hanging around with, and those are the types of people that I want to find, which is why I'm making these videos, which is why I am encouraging people to reach out and see if we can work together.
Who wears tight-fitted muscular t-shirts, who poses in pictures looking tough, buying fast cars to impress other men online, whilst treating women like shit and talking down on them like they're children. Now these lot, they were massive for a period of time, but they have heavily fallen off lately. And the whole thing didn't just disappear, instead they got replaced by people like Clavicular.
I use crystal.
So yeah, the red pills
I mean, that Clavicular guy, the fact that he uses crystal meth and is proud of it as well is just like, I think a lot of people, you know, brain rot is real. A lot of people have lost their minds. People's brains have melted, and now we are seeing the consequences play out.
Messaging was kind of things like eat healthy, go to the gym, become rich, and obviously treat women like inferiors. And actually, this form itself was also an evolution of the very original pickup artist. The really early lot used to teach guys that it was all about psychological tricks and clever lines that you have to say to trick women into thinking that you were not a loser. So yeah, Looksmaxxing is the current evolution of the previous Andrew Tate red pill ideology. And it makes sense, right? Because presumably, you know, young...
Yeah, therefore, it's always, I explained this a bit earlier, that, you know, the original thing was pickup artistry, which became the red pill, which became the manosphere, which is now Looksmaxxing. You know, don't play those games, you know, establish your own game, you know, instead of Looksmaxxing, instead of becoming red pillar, become a king maxer, become a person who establishes their own kingdom and is seen as a true king.
Nerdy, awkward guys, after going to the gym a few times, probably realized that they weren't going to get a Bugatti anytime soon, and just wearing sunglasses indoors and doing this thing with your hands, it's probably not going to score like a Minecraft kid some supermodel wife. So Looksmaxxing probably spawned somewhere in like the early 2010s. There was a website called puahate.com. Surprisingly, PUA Hate, which stands for Pickup Artistry Hate, was not in fact a website created by feminists to critique the objectification of women, but instead it was created by men critiquing the effectiveness of pickup artistry. These lot, right, who were going on PUA Hate, they considered pickup artistry.
I actually went on the website. I remember, like, back in the day, like, because I used to be part of the pickup community, and I found it, and yeah, like, it was just, they were the original black pill doomers on that website.
A scam. They didn't buy the whole advice that you could just be more confident and that will get you women. They started to believe that attractiveness was biologically hardwired into you.
And I think that every woman who encounters me on the street is inherently disgusted by me. I'm physically unattractive, I'm visibly autistic, and I have no experience speaking to females. There is most likely not a single female on the planet that would be willing to date me.
So yeah,
when you have underlying beliefs like that about your appearance, about who you are as a person, you are naturally going to feel isolated and lonely. And then when you are in a position like that, you know, you are easily targeted by marketers who will literally bend you over and use you for their own pleasure. They will milk you dry, just how the elites are milking society dry by increasing inflation, by, you know, taking away your purchasing power, by taxing you up to the eyeballs. And therefore all these games, right, and even the manosphere or Looksmaxxing, it's a response to try and find a solution to, you know, actually underlying problems, right? Because the underlying fabric that society is stitched together by has eroded, okay? And because of that, because of what the elites are doing, what AI has in plan for you, you need to leave the system while you can and establish your own game, so you can establish your own rules and become the ruler that you were meant to be.
It was somewhere around the 2010s where we start to see the rise of incels, involuntary celibates. Guys who believed that they were so biologically unattractive that they were destined to be celibate. Yeah, do all the things, but my name's GigaChad Jimmy69 and I want to sell you some shit. And so we see this really interesting thing, right, that is referred to, like in general business, as market incentive escalation and differentiation pressure. So what you see, right, is as those original self-help guys that tell you to go to gym and, you know, get a hobby, as that market of, you know, creators get saturated, over time there is a market pressure to become more extreme in order to differentiate yourselves from your...
And that is what's happening all across the globe. You know, extremism is on the rise. You know, the more hyperbolic you are, the more rage baity you are, you know, the more people you try and piss off, the more attention you will get. And because we are living in an attention-driven economy, it doesn't matter what you say, as long as that you garner attention. That is how you will make money in today's economy.
For competitors and to sell new products. So if in the early days the obvious products was to make, I don't know, video courses and maybe even teach people, go coaching people to talk to women, well, the potential market for that is small and eventually will become saturated. But if you think about it, the customer base for maybe height growth,
that's why you need to establish your own market based on your personality, based on your own charisma and your expertise. That is your life purpose, and people will be buying to you. You cannot be replaced. And when you cannot be replaced, you are seen as a king, you are seen as a leader, and people will follow you to the ends of the earth.
pills, jaw strengthening machines, where you can live stream this on TikTok and have a shop running, that market is way, way bigger. And right, tongue posture, where your tongue sits in the roof of your mouth, if it's there, it will remodel your skull and make you beautiful. Mewing was invented by this insane guy and is obviously completely rejected by established science. There's no evidence that this works for adults or teenagers, but obviously that's what big feminism wants you to think. But whatever, you know, mewing, it's fine, mostly harmless. But then, yeah, you do end up getting lads who go and get their faces cut up because some random mod on Discord told them that they're...
And you're going to have a generation of men that look like transvestites. You know, it is just transmaxing, you know, on steroids. And these people are on steroids. They're taking TRT up the arse. They are clapping their booty cheeks. In the end, all there'll be is fodder for gay sugar daddies who will end up buying them and using them for their own pleasure. Okay, because real women do not want a man who is just a pretty boy. Real women want a man who is a king. They see themselves as queens. Naturally, they will be attracted to somebody of higher status, which will only be a king. Become a king, establish your kingdom, and live a life of luxury.
The maxilla is negatively rotated. And the thing is, man, these people in the forums kind of sound like experts. They have very hyper-specific knowledge on surgeries and parts of the face, knowing the names of procedures and where you...
Yeah, because when you focus on just one aspect, right, of your interest, you will become very, very knowledgeable, and then you will sound like an expert to other people. And that is what I'm talking about finding your zone of genius, because there is something that you are interested in that you know more on than most people, and you are a subject matter expert at that point. Okay, and when you are a subject matter expert, people who also want to know about that topic will seek you out, and then you'll be seen as a leader, a thought leader in that field. And then what we do is we use that and pivot into becoming kings, establishing our kingdoms, and escape the system.
You can get it done, what medicines you need. And it's this, the very invasive, you know, forms of surgery, etc., that would be called hard maxing.
By the end of this lecture, you're going to have a completely new...
Maxers are doing. They are pursuing improving themselves aesthetically in an obsessive, unhealthy manner. They are hinging their...
You know, most people have some type of body dysmorphia. Most people, you know, whether it is they're bodybuilders, whether they are just losing weight, you know, people think that they are not good enough because they have real problems in their lives, and they believe that if they solve those problems via looking more attractive, then those problems will disappear. What we do is we establish our own kingdoms so that we have no more problems in our lives, because we are the natural leaders of our kingdoms.
Entire self-worth on improving their face. That is insane. So yeah, to do my part of the brand deal, link in description. maxing. You know, this is taking testosterone, TRT, DHT derivatives, peptides, often without medical supervision, just buying it online from some dodgy, unregulated lab abroad. And again, like I keep saying, if you have low testosterone or you're aging or something, there might be a valid reason to take testosterone, but there is no reason for a 14-year-old boy with regular testosterone levels to be taking testosterone, such as Clavicular, who, if you look at his face, have a guess how old he is. That boy's 19. He was doing testosterone since 14. And for him, why he's particularly a case study is because when he talks about why he's doing this, he says that it's an investment into being better looking because good looking people have better outcomes in their life. He's basically selling young kids like a neoliberal economic ideology, applying it to their faces. For fuck's sake, is there anything capitalism will keep its grubby hands off? He claims that 35 grand he's spent on this shit is a worthwhile financial investment into his future because it will give him more opportunities. And he openly admits not caring about longevity and his health.
I'm not a huge longevity guy.
And like, I would say probably...
I mean, you can tell that that guy's brain has just melted and he has no clue about anything. I mean, he is a child, right? If he's 19, he is a child. He's been doing meth and taking steroids since the age of 14. His brain has melted. He's literally just a drug dealer, and he would have probably looked like that regardless of the steroids that he took. He's now, because of the TRT he took, what happens is when you take TRT, your balls shrink and in essence you become infertile. He's really, really fucked his life up. And, for what reason? Because you only end up looking good for a couple of years. Right, whereas instead you can invest into building your wealth, building your knowledge base, finding your life purpose, being in your zone of genius and living life like a king, establishing a kingdom, being a leader, all those things. Whereas instead he is just focusing on one thing. And the fucked up thing is society is right now rewarding him. And therefore he's going to keep doing it. Okay. He is a car crash waiting to happen. And, I encourage you to look away, not to feed into the machine, but, you probably won't. But that is it for today. Again, we're not here to give a fuck about these people. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's good. I'm telling you that this is the shit that is happening in the world. And if you understand the coming apocalypse, it's time to lead the system. It's time to establish your own game and become the ruler in your own right. Become a king, become a leader. Otherwise, the future that is coming, you'll be absolutely fucked. And I want you to live a good life, especially if you're a person that you think that I think I can get on with. We might be future friends. I'm looking for the Avengers. I'm looking for the hero that the world needs so that we together can take on the evil that is in the world. But that is it for today. Thank you, and I will see you tomorrow.